It's a big day. We got big man Hudson Lucas, 6'9", forward out of Parish Episcopal. And man, like we said, you had a good TVC, you had a good live period before that. And so let's go ahead and jump right in. Um, you got length, you skill, pace, and touch. You know, you got a big ceiling and it keeps rising. Hudson, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for reaching out and getting me on here.
Yeah, how does it feel to be heading into this next live period with the confidence that you built with the previous month's work?
It feels good. Anytime that you play good, it's always a great feeling. I just think, having a great weekend and then playing in front of more scouts just can't be much better. So I'm excited to get back out there and play.
Yeah. Um, what part of your game do you think really turns heads whenever coaches see you live for the first time?
Turns heads. I mean, obviously, I think I do a lot of things that could turn heads, but I think mainly I think it's my shooting ability. I think everybody in basketball now can shoot, but I think being 6'9", 6'10" ish and can really shoot. I think that's something that you can't find in a lot of players, especially at my size.
Yeah, and I agree with that. You know, I'm when you're playing for a powerhouse like Parish, how has that elevated your standard day to day?
But it's elevated a lot, especially a powerhouse like Parish. You gotta every day is challenging, practice is challenging, games are challenging. So there's really no days off. I would say every day you gotta work for it. So I think that just obviously it's elevated my game tremendously. I've seen the results since I transferred there. Just more confident. I'm better now. But like I said, being a powerhouse, a lot of great players. Practices intense, games intense. So really, you can't really drop your standards. You got to go to practice every day, ready to work.
Yeah, you know, was 6'9", and you got a great jumper. Have you always been a shooter, or did that come later on?
Well, I would say, when I was younger, I could really shoot. And I didn't, I mean, I was tall when I was younger, but I didn't really start growing until I got into high school. So middle schoolish, I had a great jumper. And then, I started growing a lot in going into my freshman, sophomore year. And so I started getting, when you grow, you become stronger. So my jumper, it was good, I would say. Uh, Freshman, sophomore year of high school to where it is now. I would say the way it is now, I think I've really worked. I think I've really worked back to that now.
Hmm. That's good, man. You talk about what turns people's heads, man, and I like the way you play off the ball in defense. You get a lot of blocks in the help side, but
Mm-hmm.
then, man, you're like I told you before we got on here, man. You got an elite skill set offensively,
Thank you.
and that's impressive. But let's talk about Parish Episcopal. It's not just a school; it's a system. You guys win, you develop, and every year there's talent on the roster. Walk us through what it means to be a Panther.
Well, yeah, it means a lot. Like you mentioned it, a lot of talent on the roster. So, like I said earlier too, every day is competitive, but to be a Panther means a lot. Especially coaches doing a great job building a great system, a great culture there. Really feels like a family environment. So to me, to be a Panther, I think it means more than just a basketball player. It really feels like a family that we've built there.
And the thing about it is, man, y'all have won a lot of basketball games.
We have.
You know, and that's and y'all played against a lot of talented guys. I think, man, if y'all put together a strength of schedule, Parish has got to be pretty high up there. And then to be going and talking with the coach, Jami, and saying y'all were going to do 3 or 4 of the
Nobles.
nobles, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's going to be a great opportunity to really
Going to
give
be great.
yourself a measuring stick. Yeah,
So it's always
yeah.
good to get out there and play those great teams. Really see where you're at.
What's been your most memorable moment so far in a Paris jersey?
That's a good question. My most memorable moment, I would probably say, I think when we go out of state, because I think when we go out of state, you're not known when you go out of state. So I think going out of state and doing really well, really uh, puts you and your school Parish on the map. So I think when we go out of state, it's most memorable because I get to show other people Parish and how good we really are.
Coach Ajami, we talked about he built something special. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he's got probably the most experience of coaching at all levels that I've seen at his young age. Um, what's a piece of advice or wisdom that he's given you that's really stuck?
Yeah, one thing he's given me that's really stuck is, he's always talking about one more, and one more has been our motto all year. So I think just, when you finish something, obviously there's time to celebrate, there's time to reflect on it, but, just focus on the next thing, one more, and never really get, stuck in the moment, but always know that the job's not finished. You always have one more task to do and one more thing to finish.
Yeah, we've talked about the uh, the word that goes around is somebody getting their bag. But let's break down like your toolkit. You got size, a release, and a willingness to run. That alone checks a lot of boxes. What separates you even more is how comfortable you are playing outside the paint. What's the skill you worked on hardest this past year?
Skill worked on the hardest. I think I work on all my skills. But I think to me, the one I put the most effort in is ball handling. I feel like that's been the biggest weakness of my game. So I feel like this past year, I've put heavy emphasis on ball handling, just making sure at my size that if I like to play outside on the perimeter a lot, so I know I got to handle the ball because that's where guards are. So I think just ball handling. Then I'm so able to handle the ball when a little guard switch on me outside.
You know, you've got great footwork, but how important do you think that balance is in a big man's game today?
Uh, I think it's big. Not as big as I would say a couple years ago because the game's kind of moving out to more we're big shoot threes. But obviously, being a big, you got to have great footwork when you get it inside. I think it's more so just taking your time. I think a lot of bigs, a lot of people, they rush through their moves, and so they get their footwork gets sped up. So I would say it's big. I think you got to have great footwork. Obviously to finish inside, but also with great footwork, you got to take your time and slow down sometimes.
If you were scouting yourself, what would your own scouting report say?
This is the one I struggled on because obviously everyone wants to talk good about themselves, but I would say I'm a stretch big. I think that'd be number one. Would be I think a stretch big with some decent with some pretty good athleticism on him. I think that would be my main keys on my scouting report.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Because the only other thing is like we talked about off air was Mother Nature catching up, and that's going to happen.
Mhm.
You know, what's your mindset heading into this next live period for Southern Assault? And I know you kind of talked about being in front of more scouts, but what's it like being back with that group of gentlemen?
It's great. Obviously, anytime I get to play is a great time. I would say my goal is just keep playing how I've been playing. Keep playing my game, and I think if I play my game, then the work will be shown in front of everybody. So to me, I'm just focused on playing my game and doing my responsibilities.
Hmm. You know, for coaches watching, what do you think they need to know about your personality off the court?
Off the court, I would say, I don't do much. If it's not basketball, I'm kind of just chilling at the house, or I'm always in the gym. So I would say off the court, you're going to see me a lot in the gym, and you're going to see me a lot at home. Was the way two places I'd be at the most.
Hey, man, I'm just going to tell you, I'm excited to see how you do in this live period. And we're going to go ahead and close it, but I want to bring you back on after the live period so you can kind of tell us a little bit about how that went for you.
So I'll be
Is
glad
that
to get
cool?
back on here after the live period.
All right, perfect, man. All right, everyone. That's Hudson. That's Hudson. And Hudson is going to head off to live period. And all right, Hudson, you got to go out and do big things. All right. Because when I look up the report, I look for Hudson Lucas. I want to see good things beside it, man. 6'9", 2026, skilled and smooth, Parish Episcopal. And this has been the Watch List, powered by the One-Eyed Scout and TAAN-TV. I'm Kevin Howe. Until next time, keep your eyes open.